Hi everybody and welcome to my Unruly Housewife channel. Now one of the nicest things we can do with our polymer clay is to make gifts for people, and today I thought it might be fun if I showed you some gift ideas. I put links in the description down below so that you can find tutorials for some of those ideas, and we just looked at what we could do with gifts to make them more interesting or more relevant, and ways to zhuzh them up a little bit and make them look a bit more fancy. So what I'm going to do now is to turn the camera onto the work, and we'll have a look at some of the stuff that we can give people that's made of polymer clay, and hopefully they'll be grateful. That's the plan. All right, I'm going to turn the camera around now. See you in a moment. Okay, so my first group of gifts I've put into a category I call useful. So it would be things like this journal cover. This isn't actually glued on, so I'm holding it in my thumb. People sometimes embellish the whole of the front of a journal with a picture, but I've just made a little fairy door for this one. And the fact that this is useful and a journal just gives a whole extra dimension to the polymer clay work, doesn't it? I think so. You can also give people things like jars, and I've made one with little inlaid gold stars here. You could cover, like these, Vaseline lip treatment tins, and when that Vaseline runs out, of course, the person can transfer the lid onto the new one. These are all just really fun, practical things to give to people. I made a box. There's not a tutorial for this. It was pretty hard. I made that over cardboard, got the cardboard out, and then just fashioned that lid myself, decorated it. So you could try and do that, but I don't have an actual tutorial for it. I'm sure you'll have a good go. There's also I made a pendant, but I made it into a glasses holder by cutting a hole out of it so that the handle, the arm of the glasses, could go through. So that's quite a fun thing to do as well. And of course, I've been boring everybody to death with my pens because I have a pen press. So I've made some pens, and if you don't have a pen press, you could zhuzh up a Bic long stick pen, the sort of opaque grey ones. I don't have a tutorial for this actual pen. I made it so many years ago. These are some of my first flower canes, and they're rather sad leaf cane. But I do have one for a Bic pen that's covered in purple and white spirals. And as I say, there's going to be links down below to the different tutorials. My pen press, I kind of give a demonstration, but I don't actually do any tutorials yet for these kinds of pens. But they are, as you can see, practical gifts, and I think practical gifts are a really great idea. Now, my second category is arty gifts, and in a way I'm not really showing you very much for that because the ones I've made I've sold and given to people. But arty gifts might include, for instance, this is half finished, so ignore it, but look at that, a metal pencil sharpener, and you can cover that in polymer clay and bake it in the oven, and there's a tutorial for that in the description. But also, in a similar way to how you're covering your pens, you could also cover the handles of crochet hooks. I've even done tiny lace bobbins, and you can make seam rippers, stitch markers, and buttons, in fact, if you've got a friend who likes sewing. So there's lots of practical things that you can make as gifts. My third category of gifts, I've said, are personalised. Now, you can personalise gifts in more than the obvious ways. For instance, if you were making pens, back to these kind of pens, look at this. My brother loves fishing, so I can actually buy a pen clip with fish on it. I got mine from CS Crafts. They're in Scotland, but they don't sell abroad. But I think Penn State is a place in America where you can buy these kinds of things. So yeah, you can use your imagination to personalise things. You can also use these sorts of things, initial stamps. You can use these, which are very cheap, from China, little alphabet stamps. And if you want to see how they work, this isn't someone's name, but I made this, and look, they have a kind of slightly wonky handmade looking vibe to them, but they do come out really nicely. And I just used the stamp, the ink from the stamp on this, and it's got to be almost 3 years old, and it's holding up really well. Just varnished it. But yeah, these little stamps are great, and you can put ages on things as well with those. And oh, here's one more thing that I did for personalisation. When my mum was 80, God rest her soul, I made her this badge, and Lisa Pavelka had a stamp with "A thing of beauty is a joy forever" on it, and that was my mum's one of her favourite sayings, so that personalised her badge for when she was 80. So I think personalised things are really great. Now, the fourth category of things that you can make as gifts are holiday themed gifts, and I'm more specifically concentrating on Christmas here because I do celebrate Christmas. That's my background, but you could do things for other holidays, I'm sure. And look at this, I made you can make a set of napkin rings. I made this around a sort of inner of a kitchen roll. So yeah, there's a tutorial, of course, and that's a pretty nice thing to make. You can make baubles. I also made like a tree hanging sort of decoration, and with that I actually used the personalization again. I can't show you that unfortunately because it was a commission, but I used the personalization by putting a name on the bottom of the tree where the pot was, and on the back, baby's first Christmas. So yeah, that's another thing that you can do. And also you can make embellishments for things, and that means you can make labels for jars or so if you make a nice jar of pickles, you could make a polymer clay label that hangs down that says pickles, things like that. Put names on your gifts and things, and you can also do something like this. These lovely bags are not terribly expensive. Now, I showed you that when I actually want to give it to somebody, it will be in that bag like that with a little matching embellishment, and doesn't it just really elevate it to being a much more exciting gift than the original thing on its own. Similarly with pens, I like to put them into bags like this, and it just raises the game a little bit. And again, you can make a polymer clay thing that might say handmade, or might say anything, the person's name, whatever you want it to say, or perhaps just a little heart. So embellishments and putting a little bit of effort in is really worth it with your polymer clay things. And of course, the last category of things that you can make for people is wearable things like these double-sided earrings that I made. There's no tutorial for those, unfortunately, because I've only just started learning how to make earrings. There's some other ones there. I'm using my handmade retro cane to decorate these, so they're quite crazy looking. And for the gentleman, you might want to make tie slides, or you could make these cufflinks. Now, these are from a cufflink tutorial I made. It was sort of Valentine's themed, and I made these and I offered them to my husband, and he said, "Nah, you're all right." Which is quite hurtful. But there is a tutorial to make those for your nicer partner, who's definitely nicer than mine. So these are some of the gift ideas that I've come up with, and some of them are linked. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it inspired you, because that was what it was really about, inspiring you and giving you ideas. And if you've got some good gift ideas that people could use, and look, there's like a golf one here. Oh dear. If you've got ideas that people could use, or that you've come up with, or ways to make gifts look even better by using your polymer clay, or just by, zhuzhing them up a little bit. Let's just move that down. Do comment and tell us all about it. And if you want links to anything that I haven't mentioned here, if that makes any sense. It doesn't really, does it? But if you want any links, or you want any advice or any information, just stick it in comments, and please give my video a thumbs up, and please subscribe And yeah, thank you so much for watching. It's been a while since I made a video. It's been way too hot. I'm glad to be back. I love you all.